Hello, my name is Natasha Selvaraj and I'm a transactional real estate attorney at Berlin Patton Ebling here in Sarasota and Manatee counties. Here in Florida, every so often when hurricane season is upon us, we have to take special precautions with regard to real estate transactions. We experienced this most recently with Hurricane Irma in 2017. In this video, I will briefly discuss some things that both buyers and sellers should consider as part of their hurricane preparedness plan, specifically with regard to obtaining insurance and the impacts that a hurricane can have on closing. As most of you probably already know, if you have a buyer obtaining financing, they will be required to have home insurance bound at the time of closing. However, a cash buyer has the option to obtain insurance at their discretion. Florida insurance companies have the ability to suspend the binding of home insurance policies when a named storm is approaching. This moratorium on insurance can begin a couple of days prior to the anticipated date the storm will hit and extend to a couple of days after. If a buyer wishes to obtain insurance and hasn't had a policy bound, they will need to ensure that they get with their insurance company to make sure this is done prior to closing. Keep in mind that the Florida Bar Standard contracts include an extension of time for force majeure events like a hurricane that create situations where performance under the contract is not possible. For example, the contract states that all time periods, including the closing date, will extend for reasonable time up to 7 days after a hurricane no longer prevents performance under the contract. The standard clause also allows for the contract to be terminated by either party if the hurricane prevents performance for more than 30 days from the original closing date. While this automatic extension could work in a buyer's favor, it can be detrimental to a seller. If the seller has other plans scheduled and is not able to close on time, the seller then has to bear the risk of loss for the property through the hurricane and the loss of any damage caused by the hurricane to the property. And this can also have a rippling effect on the seller. If the seller was dependent on the proceeds from this Florida closing for a simultaneous transaction in another state or somewhere else in the country, or has any other financial obligations, they could be impacted. You may be thinking, what counts as a situation that prevents performance under the contract? Some examples. If, for example, the power grid is down and there's no electricity to the property to allow for a walkthrough, that could impact your ability to close. If there's a stoppage of work at your bank with your closing agent or utility company, that could also prevent the completion of the transaction if funds cannot be transferred, if documents cannot be signed, or if new services for water or power cannot be set up for the buyer. While there may not be anything any one of us can do to prevent a hurricane or avoid a stoppage of work as a result of damage, it is important to understand the implications of delays to better serve our clients. As we all know, every real estate transaction is different, so this hurricane season, please consult with your local real estate attorney should you have questions or concerns about how a hurricane could impact you, your clients, or your specific closing situation. Thank you.